Hello, folks. I promise you will want to watch this entire video if you ever have any intentions of putting a loved one in a nursing home. So get a cup of coffee and sit down and watch every minute of this video. And like and subscribe. Feel free to make comments if you want. And but get that coffee and get ready to watch every minute of this video. Because, and I'm putting that at the beginning because I'm about to tell you what just happened. I ended up deleting all the work. I was done with this whole project. It was 2.5 hours. It's not going to be that long this time. I'm hoping, that I'm not. There was a lot of valid information, but, I could probably cut it down a bit. Anyway, it's still going to be long. But what happened was I finally figured out how to edit and etc. Well, there's two different ways of editing. One is where you can edit, you can just pull out and add frames. And there's another way where it completely re-encodes the file. Now, even in some programs, even though you're re-encoding to the same exact format it's coming out of, it'll still re-encode the file. Actually, YouTube does that to everything you send them. They re-encode everything. So that takes up as much space as they want to, even if it's the same format. You know what I'm saying? So I ended up accidentally deleting, just as I was about to export the file that in the final product. I deleted the working files, and then because I have MS and my hand double tapped delete, I deleted all the files as one chunk. And then once they were deleted, it hopped to the working directory. And because I double tapped, it deleted the files, then deleted directory. So I guess from now on, I've gotten to the point where I have to use the temp directory or the trash directory from now on, just in case. That was a lot of work. I mean, it was a 2.5 hour video that I started on Wednesday. It took me all day editing. Finally, I had to edit out some silence, so I thought I'd use OpenShot Video Editor, which is what I used to use all the time. But it re-encodes. And I thought, well, it might be quicker because it's an option I can just check. And it'll automatically do some certain things for me. But the other program wouldn't do that. So I said, well, I'll eat the encoding part because it should be done. It'll be a few hours. But it'll be done in time for me to, upload that tomorrow. Later this morning, really. And I wiped out everything. Well, first of all, the OpenShot Video Editor, I ended up quitting after I had only edited maybe a minute. I edited out most of the major silences that I needed to, and I said, the heck with this, I'm not going to continue. So I went ahead and hit export, and when the window popped up, it said there was 16,000 or 1,600 minutes left. Was it minutes? Hours. There were 1,600 hours left to finish the export. I was like, wow. I mean, how long is that even? What is that? Several weeks? There was no way I was going to do that. So I canceled it, went back to the other program, and that's when I wiped everything out. Anyway, like I said, get your coffee. Let's go with this. I'm going to try. What this is about is the legalities that nursing homes have to follow in order to keep their accreditation and that kind of thing. This includes the administrators, everybody in upper management, the nurses, all of that stuff. But it's primarily going to focus on things that I've had experiences with here, and probably in Decatur. Now, when it starts out, well, first of all, let me start off by saying that what I learned was, this is going to include actual laws that are on the books for nursing homes. But it also has some paraphrasing in that from ChatGPT and myself as far as some of the other things that have happened. Some of the things, and I'm trying to remember that 2.5 hour video, because there was a lot of good stuff in that. If you have a loved one going to a nursing home, This is stuff you really need to know and keep track of. But as far as, if you look at some of my other videos, it talks about things that have happened that I'm going to allude to, and I hope you go back and watch those videos. I can give you enough so you know how to apply it to this, what I'm about to talk about. But in the older videos, I talked to the administrator about some stuff. Now, the administrator, I didn't realize it, he's been guilty of abuse. Because I've myself seen him giving another resident a ration of shit in a hallway because they thought he was too loud. First of all, he was yelling at the guy. I was talking to the guy. He was yelling at the guy for being too loud. And the only thing he was doing was responding to what I said. And I was just as louder. And he walked right past me and went to talk to this guy. This is another guy that has MS. He's worse off than me. He's been a troublemaker longer than me. This happened way back when I first got here, probably the first month. I hadn't yet got on his radar as the guy he doesn't like. But now I am. But he shouldn't have. That was abuse. The way he talked to that guy and told him not to yell and stuff. I mean, I understand. I understand that, you gotta keep the peace and stuff. But he's yelling at this guy for talking to me, and he was only, I think, 20 feet away from me. He was just like a door or two down. And I just say, what's going on, talking to him. And I was he was down one hall, I was going down another one. And that's what happened. Now, mind you, I'm going to just to say this right now because you'll find out it's related. Just Wednesday, the nurse that I have a lot of trouble with here found out that one of the CNAs was at the other end of the hallway. And this isn't a couple of doors. This is like 100 yards. She happened to see the CNA at the other end of the hallway of this building and yelled as loud as she could, "Hey, you need to get over here because you're on this end now, or you're on this end today." Well, the other girl on the other end yells back and says, "No, I changed it." And the nurse yells back, "Oh, I didn't know you changed it. Okay." And that was it. Well, they yelled from one end of the building to the other, whereas me and this guy, we raised our voices a little because we were a couple of doors away from each other. Now, between here and the other end of the building is probably, if you wanted to, there's different doors, but if you wanted to take the same amount of doors as what me and this guy were using, and 2 doors would have been, 20 feet from the nurse, and this was like over 100 yards away. So it would have been like, I don't know, 40 or 50 doors, and she's yelling from one end to the other, and the administrator gets on this guy for raising his voice and just having a conversation with me. That's the kind of crap that goes on here. It's favoritism. It's, the medical people stand up. I mean, the nurses, some of them, most of them, stand up for them as CNAs. And the management stands up for the nurses, I guess, for the most part. But the administrator had no reason whatsoever to get on this guy, and he did. He actually came out of his office. He was coming down the hallway from his office when he heard this guy, and he walked all the way, not all the way, it was only 2 doors, but he walked down there just to give him a ration of shit and come back and leave, go finish what he was doing. But I'm like, why in the world would he even do that when the people that are worse about everything are his employees? Some of his employees are terrible about stuff. I mean, you're about to find out here in a minute that I have enough information on the CNAs and everything here to sue this joint, the parent and the parent company, the administrator, and at least one nurse and several CNAs in a lawsuit, and he's acting like we're the problem. We're not the problem. He's the problem. Everybody here is the problem. They don't realize this is a nursing home. They look at it like it's their place of work, and we're just here temporarily. Well, that's not the case, because the director of nursing, she just got promoted. She's now a regional manager, and she didn't even start working here until a week after I got here. So she's already come and gone, because of a promotion. And that's what I was telling her a few weeks ago. I said, most of the people here will be retired and I'll still be here. So, why are they treating it like I'm the invader when it's actually them? This is where I live, not where they live. And these laws bear that out. Okay. There's a whole other document I could go through. It's 27 pages. That's more or less just paraphrasing. I'm not going to go through that. I'm going to try and just cover what it was talking about, because I was asking the questions of ChatGPT, and as you know or may not, ChatGPT is very detailed in the way it answers questions. There were a lot of bullet points. Some of them were like 2 pages of bullet points for a question that was only like 3 lines long. So by the time I finally said, hey, just summarize this stuff, I'd already gone through a lot of pages. So I'm just going to tell you what it basically told me. That other document that was 27 pages long wasn't the laws. What that was ChatGPT looking at the laws and answering my questions as they pertain to different things, like the girl who spread a rumor about me that I don't believe is true, but I don't know what she said, but one of the things I really concentrated on was, first of all, is it their job? Are they, maybe I got it wrong. Maybe the people have told me that it's their job have got it wrong, that they're not supposed to clean me up. I had a girl come into my house for 2 years cleaning me. I thought for sure somebody did, and she wasn't even a nurse or a CNA. She just answered an admin paper. That was just her job. And then these CNAs are certified by the nursing board and stuff. So I would figure they would be, well, definitely they are better at cleaning you up than this other woman was, but that they would have no issue with it. But evidently they did, or at least, yeah, they did. And according to ChatGPT, oh yeah, they're responsible. And then one of the other questions I asked was, well, if they get it fixed so that they don't have to come around here anymore, come around me anymore, I should say, are they supposed to still answer call lights and stuff? Because even if I'm not their primary resident that they care for, they're not my CNA because of the issue, whatever this issue was, which I think is the cleaning thing. And they're still a CNA. Don't they still have to perform their duties? And ChatGPT said, yeah, they do. So even this girl, if she happens to be walking by and my light comes on, she's supposed to answer it. But I've watched her walk by while my light was on. I've watched her walk past me when I was doing a CNA's job by taking my tray out to the cart that they bring us our trays on for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And a CNA is supposed to come and get it out of my room, what they weren't. For like over a week, I was taking it out myself and putting it on a cart because everyone they did it tonight too. As a matter of fact, when they come to put me in. Hold on, let me see if it's still here. No, it's gone. But yeah, there was a tray sitting here from dinner all the way up until they put me in the bed at what's it? It was after 10. So, but I had to do that. And she literally walked right past me while I was carrying a tray out to the cart. I figured she was going to take it and put it in my cart for me. No, went over there. The cart was in the middle of the hallway. She pushed it to the side I was on, and then continued to walk around the corner and left me. Like, what the hell? And now this girl is one that I thought was a really good CNA, but I thought, well, she's not certified yet. I'll train her the right way, from residents' perspective. And that way, because she's only in, I think she said she's 28. She's still fairly young. She just became a CNA. She's not even certified. She does a really good job. And I thought, well, if I can keep her around for a decade or so, because some of the people here have worked in this building for several decades. So I thought if I could keep her around and teach her the right way, and try to keep her as my CNA, then we're golden. Well, what happened there? She accused me of something. Well, I don't know what it is, but I guess it's the cleanup part. But now she's decided not to do her job when she's walking past me. That's what I mean by they're not trained properly. See, she should be trained that she still has to answer the call light, but she doesn't. That she still has to be a CNA when I'm concerned, even if she's not my primary CNA. That includes her friends, well, pretty much everybody here who doesn't want to do something. I asked ChatGPT also, when a CNA is out there, and this is kind of associated, it's almost the same thing, but it's a little different because it happens pretty much every day. And that's that if there's a CNA out at this nursing desk, I'm like the first door on the right from the nurse's desk. So if you walk out my door and go 20 feet, you're at the nurse's desk right there. So I'm like, if I put my call light on, there's a CNA at the nurse's desk doing nothing, which is what they do a lot. And they're not the CNA for this room. Are they still supposed to answer the call light? Yes, of course, because, like I just got done saying with the other girl, it's still their job. They're still supposed to answer it, but they never do. Well, I shouldn't say never. Sometimes they do, but it usually takes a while, like 15, 20 minutes. And then they'll come in and say, yeah, what do you need? Well, I need water, whatever happens to me. I'll let your CNA know, and they'll turn out the light and leave. But they're not doing it. They're not taking care of it. Occasionally they do. And it's usually the same ones that do stuff like that. But for the most part, they say they'll tell my CNA and then leave. They're not supposed to do that. They're supposed to actually answer the call light because that's their duty. If to do otherwise is neglect. And could be abuse depending on what you needed. Like if I need water, I'm dehydrating. That's abuse and neglect. So that was one of the things I asked about. The other thing I asked about was like if a guy swears, the guy who swore at me, told me shut the fuck up, slam my door and all that. Yeah, I can press charges against him, but that's also considered neglect and or abuse. The nurse I have trouble with, it's not up to her to just tell a CNA she doesn't have to work with me anymore. What's supposed to happen is that if a CNA has a complaint about a resident, or even a resident about anybody else that works here, either way, what's supposed to happen is it has to go up the chain of command, and then the people up the chain have to do an investigation. And then if they determine that the complaint is valid, then they take steps to alleviate the situation. Well, she decided on the spot she was going to handle it herself. And she did. It didn't go, well, it might have gone up the chain of command, but I told her, probably not, because I talked to the social worker after that. I said, for one thing, she has to understand how MS works. And it's because I thought she was on, it was some other topic. So it's something other, I'm not even going to get into it. But yeah, she didn't know about it. The social worker hadn't heard about it. So evidently this nurse handled it herself. She might have told the CNA the schedules now, But I don't think she told anyone up the chain. I ended up telling the director of nursing and my unit, what is it, boss or whatever she's like under the DON. And they swore that they were going to find out what it was and tell me. They never did. Well, according to what ChatGPT found out, they're not supposed to. It's supposed to remain private, that kind of thing. But the only thing is, yeah, it can remain private, but you still have to do an investigation. That's part of it. And when you do an investigation, you're supposed to send a report to the health department. None of that has happened. Now, if all of these people are not doing that, that in itself is a violation of the standard of care. They're supposed to do that, and they haven't done it. What else did I cover in that first document? Are you family can? Like, for instance, if you are non-compos mentis, you can't think for yourself, somebody else has to do it for you, some other family member, they can sue. But if you don't want to sue, then they have a problem. But you can sue all the way up to the corporation and everyone all the way down. And if anybody in that line is found guilty, they're all guilty. And if you get a judgment from the judge for, $300,000, let's say, and it's going to take 10 years of garnishing to get it out of some of the people that were found guilty. But one of them, like the main court company, has the money. They have to give it to you. And then once they give it to you, none of the other people have to pay it. But that company can still go after them to pay the money. But that's how that works. You can sue all of them, and if even one of them is found guilty, they're all guilty. And the money has to be paid by whoever has it. If nobody has it, all of them get garnished. But if any one of them has it, they have to pay it. That's the lawsuit issue. It's a lot easier to do a civil lawsuit than criminal charges. Of course, we all knew that, I think. I can't believe I lost that, because that was like over an hour of information, just that one document. Now this other document that specifically has the legal, the laws and stuff, is, how many pages is this? Yeah, this one's 13 pages. It's a lot of bullet points. So it could be 2 pages and I'll talk for 30 seconds. Or it could be 1 page and I'll talk for 15 minutes. Who knows? But it's 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm hearing stuff outside. So I mean, they're not supposed to make noise in the middle of the night. Not only that, they're supposed to turn the lights down. Could you hear that? Anyway, so how long have we been going so far? 23 minutes? That's good. I've cut it down from an hour to 23 minutes. Now we're moving on to the laws. And as I think, if I remember stuff, I'll go ahead and cover that at the same time. But from now on, we're going into the laws. So it says, this is still about that girl. I guess the last little bit was the law concerning this girl. And it talks about, well, not just this girl, but any CNA and any nurse, really. But the duties are a little different, obviously. But it says the key points: professionalism and emotional management. And then performance of duties is number 2. Self-reflection and growth is number 3. Workplace support, number 4. Told you a lot of bullet points. But one of the things I forgot to mention is that, for instance, when any CNA decides not to, that's what all of that was about. was what happens if she doesn't do this or that. One of the things I didn't think about, which does make sense, is that if she doesn't answer my call light, she's making the job of another CNA harder. So that's one of the reasons why she should be the one doing it, because it's in her job description, and if she doesn't do it, somebody else does. So that's what all that was about. Oh, also, it talks about working with her mentor. It says, let's say that what happened as far as the cleaning was all in her head, that she's freaking out because she doesn't like touching a guy's junk, cleaning him up properly. That she's supposed to have a mentor that, someone who's been around longer and knows what they're doing. And she's supposed to work that out with that person, because she's going to have to, that's part of her job. She has to keep doing it. And if she's got a problem with it, she needs to work that out with her mentor, which is somebody she's supposed to pick up during this investigation. The investigation is supposed to take at least 24 hours, and I've never heard of it, so it's never happened. Now we're into the actual laws. Now it says, in Alabama, nursing homes and long-term care facilities are governed in the Alabama Administrative Code, specifically Chapter 420-5-10, which outlines the responsibilities and standards these facilities must uphold. Then it has bullet points. It says, key responsibilities of nursing homes in Alabama. 1, resident care and rights. 2, staffing requirements. I'll go a little more into that one. It says nursing homes must maintain adequate staffing levels to meet the needs of the residents. This includes employing qualified personnel and providing ongoing training to ensure competent care delivery. But that includes like the third shift. A lot of times people come to me, oh, you got to be understanding. No, I don't, because it's your job to make sure that I don't have to be understanding. And if I have to be understanding, that means you're not doing your job. That's what that's talking about. Staffing requirements. Health and safety standards. Facilities have to keep, health and safety standards. One of which, let me make sure it's not already in here. It might say it better than me. Medications. But one of the things that they have to keep, first of all, keep you clean. But one of the things that I didn't even think about was that when they leave a tray in your room, that's a violation of health and safety standards. Because while that tray of partially eaten or whatever food is sitting there, it's starting to rot. And if somebody's leaving your tray there until the next morning when you get breakfast because they don't feel like picking it up, they're guilty of abuse and neglect. I think it's abuse. It's neglect at the least. Okay, and then next is emergency preparedness. That's talking about fires, tornadoes, etc. And I'll tell you, I remember almost word for word this from the other video, is that when it comes time for let's say a tornado siren goes off, or there's a tornado in the area, etc., we have to seek shelter. I have no doubt that everybody in this building is going to beat feet and leave us sitting here by ourselves. If there's a tornado scare, I don't trust these people for a second that they would get us out of here. First of all, where are they going to put us? Maybe there's a basement in this building. I know there's a lower area like over there, because the road, there's like a ditch or whatever, and it looks like there is a downstairs. I don't know if it's the entire building has a basement or if it's just over there, because the hillside kind of goes down on that area over there. But, that would be about all they could do is take us into a basement. Otherwise, we're stuck here, and unless this place is tornado proof, so I highly doubt it was built in the 50s. I think we're screwed. And I think that all the employees here would just take off. They would head for the hills, make sure they're safe, and oh well, the people in nursing home hopefully live. That's the way it's going to be. There was a couple here that I think would, do what they can. But for the most part, I don't trust any of them to do anything. That's tornado, fire. The other day I made a video about how the fire alarm went off over here. It wasn't a practice either. It was an actual fire alarm went off. And I went over there and looked out the door, and I'm looking up and down. What they're supposed to do is close all the doors. They're supposed to run through their areas, closing all the doors, telling all the residents to get inside their rooms. I'm assuming that's because these rooms are fireproof, so that they can control the fire or whatever. Nobody ever came. For 10, 15 minutes I was out here. I made a video, watch it, or made a short, I think. When you watch it, you can hear the fire alarm going off. Nobody ever came to my door. Nobody ever even entered the hallway. So pretty much this entire wing of people, which is 6 or 8 people, maybe 10. I think it's 6 or 8. 6 or 8 rooms. Nobody ever came down here to say, hey, stay in your room and close the door. So if there was a fire, we'd have been done for. Because the laundry is at the end of this hallway. So if there was a fire that started in there, we'd have been done for. Because the flames would have came out here, and that would have been it. Nobody ever came down here. This is compliance and inspection. So they're supposed to make sure that they're complying with all the laws, regulations, and be able to pass inspection when the health department comes around. Let me read what that says here. Maybe I left some out. Facilities are subject to regular inspections by the Alabama Department of Public Health and ensure compliance with state regulations. That's the law part. Non-compliance can result in penalties, including fines or revocation of licenses. Well, we know that they're not in compliance with the regulations. That's on a daily basis. The inspections, well, I assume the health department does what they're supposed to do. But I've seen some things here that I'm a little like, I think if the health department saw that, they may have an issue with that. So I don't know. Let me read this COVID thing. It's important to note that during the COVID-19 pandemic, Alabama, along with several other states, enacted temporary legal immunity provisions for nursing homes, shielding them from certain liabilities related to the pandemic response. However, these provisions do not cover instances of gross negligence or willful misconduct. For detailed information, you can refer to Alabama Administrative Code, Chapter 420-5-10, which provides comprehensive guidelines on the operation and responsibilities of nursing homes and long-term care facilities in the state. Well, whatever they did for COVID-19, it says it was temporary anyway. Legal immunity provisions for nursing homes. Alabama, along with several other states, probably all Republican, because the golden Jesus was in charge at that time. Orange Jesus, golden. Mixing up of the movie Golden Boy with Orange Jesus. Yeah, so I bet they were all Republican, because Alabama, deep red. I'm independent, just so you know. As you can probably tell from one of my other op-eds, where I talk about Orange Jesus. Or is it 2? Might be a couple of them. I need to put up some more really about that. Yeah. Okay. Then as far as the call lights go, there is no law that says they have to. Here we go. There is no specific number of minutes written into state law. Standard of care established by both federal and state and Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Call lights must be answered promptly to ensure resident health and safety. Well, like I said in the other video, I was taught CPR a long time ago. I used to be on search and rescue teams when I was a teenager. I used to be in the Civil Air Patrol, which is basically if a plane crashes, you do search and rescue, that kind of thing. And some people with pilot's license fly around looking for them. It's kind of like the Coast Guard, only closer, I guess, or National Guard, only more civilian, something. But anyway, I learned CPR years ago when I was a teenager, and we learned way back when that if somebody's dead for more than 6 minutes, let them go because they're a veggie. You know, unless it's circumstances like they fell into a lake of freezing water or something. We were all shocked about that back in, the late 70s, early 80s, when people were brought up after like a half an hour under the water. You know, but if under normal circumstances, somebody's dead for 6 minutes, they've got brain damage at that point. No reason to bring them back. So that to me is promptly. And it says here, CMS regulation, 42 CFR subsection 483.10 G5 states a resident has the right to receive care and services promptly in accordance with his or her plan of care or care plan. This includes prompt response to call lights, especially when the need may involve toileting, hydration, pain, or assistance with mobility, which is my chair, all of which are tied directly to resident safety and dignity. I've only been put in my chair. I'm supposed to be, according to my care plan, supposed to be put in my chair by 9 o'clock every morning. It's only happened maybe 6 or 7 times, including today. No, today I was put in late. No, was I in time? I was 9:30, so it was a little late. That I kind of counted on. That was going to be 9:30 personally, but my care plan says 9. So it's been like 6 or 7 times that I've actually, my care plan has been met. I've been put in the chair, and this is over months and months of time has gone by, and I've 10:40. One time it was 12:10 before I was in the chair. Lunch is supposed to be at 12, so I guess lunch was late that day. I wouldn't know because I was fed lunch after I got in the chair before I finished putting all my stuff together to get ready to move around. So I have no idea how long lunch was actually, and it's always cold. So I have no idea how long it may have actually been here before they came in to put me in the chair, and I wouldn't know about it. I guess I could have asked the kitchen, but they probably wouldn't know either. Which is probably why the food's cold when it gets here, because they have no idea who they're sending trays to. Alabama State Standards, Alabama Administrative Code, 420-5-10.0610. Each resident shall receive care that maintains or enhances his or her quality of life, dignity, and safety. And none of that happens here. Quality of life, dignity, and safety. You've got to enhance it. trying to think if there's actually any situation where that's actually the case. I can't. I don't think any of that is true. Here, or in Decatur, for that matter, not true. So, yeah, as you see, any one of these things can cause a lawsuit. And how many of these things happen on a daily basis here? Quite a few of them. Here we go. This is the legal. So what does promptly mean in practice? While no fixed time like 5 minutes is set by law, many facilities establish internal policies, often requiring response within 5 to 10 minutes, that's too late, if you ask me. Oh, well, it says for non-urgent needs, an immediate response for emergency call lights. Well, the only emergency they're talking about, well, at least here, the only call light here that's different than the regular call light is the bathroom call light. And I think that's what they're considering the emergency call light. See, to me, the call light period is an emergency. You're supposed to answer that because it's the only way we have if we're bedbound of communicating with the outside world. So it shouldn't just be the bathroom. I can't even get in the bathroom. Well, if I'm in the wheelchair, I can, and I can reach that emergency call light in the wheelchair. But if I'm in the bed, like right now, there's no way now I'll ever be able to reach that call light. There's no way for me to send up a flare of emergency at all. You know, I have MS hug right now. I'm having a hard time breathing. The thing with MS is what kills you is usually you choke like on your own tongue, or you swallow wrong, or you can't breathe. You know, that's usually what kills you. And that's because the nerves that affect your lungs and all of that have been injured. You know, the nerves, the reason I talk like I'm drunk now is because the nerves that have affected my mouth, the nerves that make my mouth do what it's supposed to, have been affected by the MS. Even my eyesight, that's why I'm wearing glasses. I had perfect eyesight. And then all of a sudden, within a couple of months, all of a sudden I needed trifocals. You know, that's all because of MS. Legal risk of the delay. If a call light is left unanswered for a prolonged period of time and the resident suffers harm, or a fall, incontinence, dehydration, it can lead to negligence or abuse claims, state citations or fines, loss of facility certification, and civil lawsuits. Now, mind you, even incontinence is considered a risk of the delay. That's considered suffering harm. I wouldn't have thought so. It's just, crapping on yourself or whatever. That is considered harm. That can result in neglect and abuse. Well, to me, if somebody craps themselves and you don't answer their call light to change them for hours and hours and hours, which has happened to me, both nursing homes several times, that is negligence and or abuse. But this is saying just the act of incontinence while your light is going is neglect or abuse. Dehydration, well, I'm thinking massive dehydration, but even being thirsty, like I was the 2 times now that I've been denied water by CNAs while they were in the room. There's a sink right there. I can't reach it, but they can. Isn't that inhuman torture? Is that I'm sitting there dying of thirst, there's water right there and I can't get near it? Does ring the bells of like Chinese water torture or something? That you're actually being tortured for that period of time that CNA has decided not to give you water, to me that makes perfect sense, especially since there's water right there and I can't reach it. So all I can do is sit here dying of thirst, staring at a spigot full of water that I can't touch. They don't get it. You know? All right, here's best practices. CNAs and nursing staff should document high call volume and lack of coverage and communicate with supervisors if they are unable to answer call-outs promptly. But ignoring or selectively answering call-outs is never acceptable and can be grounds for disciplinary action or termination. So when these people stand out here by the nursing, or when they come in, they say, well, I'll let your CNA know. Sometimes it's hours before my CNA. My CNA could be at lunch. My CNA could be taking care of something that she might have took lunch and then said, I'll be a little bit late coming back for lunch. So I'm sitting here for 2 hours waiting for that CNA to tell my CNA, who's not here, that she has to come see me. If it's for water, like I said, there's a faucet right there. So I'm waiting for hours for my CNA because this CNA is too lazy to do it herself. Here are the definitions of neglect and abuse according to Alabama and federal guidelines. Neglect is generally defined as the failure to provide goods and services necessary to avoid physical harm, mental anguish, or mental illness. It's 42 CFR subsection 488.301. Federal CMS regulation also used in Alabama compliance inspections. So the health department uses that to see if they're in compliance as well. In Alabama, this includes failure to assist with hygiene, food, water, toileting, or mobility, ignoring a call light or delaying response unreasonably, like saying, I'll let your CNA know, not administering medication as prescribed. That's happened with this nurse I have trouble with. I had to actually ask, where's my medication? Why isn't it in here? Failing to follow a known care plan. Not reporting injuries or changes in condition to nurses or family. Okay, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 bullet points. And let me read the key point and then I'll go back to these bullet points. Key point: neglect does not have to be intentional. Even omission, failure to act, in parentheses, can be considered neglect. So let's go back over these. Failure to assist with hygiene. That would include washing yourself, no? Pretty sure it does. Food. That would include taking trays out of here. Well, maybe not. But it definitely includes opening packages, which I have a very hard time with. I have to have special silverware, special plates, and then they bring me these like ranch dressing or ketchup or mustard packets that it takes me 5 to 10 minutes to open instead of staying here and opening it themselves. There's, I think, 2 people here that have done that. One of them is a therapy chick. She's in charge of therapy. She's not even a CNA or a nurse. She does actually, her job is speech therapy, but she's in charge of the occupational and the physical therapist. She's done it. She's actually offered to feed me. And she's the only one that's done that. And then there's another CNA that, is it a CNA or a nurse? I think a nurse did it, and one CNA offered to open stuff, asked me before they left. Ignoring a call light happens every day. Not administering that's happened at least once that I know of. Failure to follow a known care plan happens pretty much every day. Not reporting injuries or changes in condition, that's happened a few times, many times over in Decatur. I had sepsis 3 times while over there, and I had at least 4 UTIs. I've had 2 UTIs here, and I've had problems where I've had sores. I've had problems where, did I just say UTIs? 2 UTIs at least that I was, since I've been here. The sores, well, I got really sick a few weeks ago, and I slept for like an entire week. Nobody even came in to check on me and see what was up. Then I had evidently constipation was one of the things, toileting. And I had constipation for like almost 3 weeks. It was 2 weeks at least. And I ended up telling this nurse that I have problems with again. She's on, I think, Monday through Friday on the daytime. So I end up working with her a lot, unfortunately. And I told her, I said, I think I really need something. Like, do you have a pillow softener or something? And she said, why? And I said, well, because, it's been a couple of weeks. She said, a couple of weeks? You're supposed to tell me right away. And in my head, I'm going, aren't the CNAs supposed to, like, when they do their charts, aren't they supposed to chart whether or not you had a bowel movement and how much, etc.? And if so, and she said, I actually asked her that question. She said, yeah. So why doesn't she know that I haven't gone in 2 weeks? It's that they're supposed to check our vital signs, our blood pressure and our heart rate and our blood oxygen, like regularly. There's one nurse that does it. One nurse checks every now and then. And I'm talking like the one I have trouble with, I think she's done it on her own twice. I asked her once. That's in, 9 months? Another nurse, she's around. She checks it pretty much every time. Every time I see her, she's checking my blood pressure when she gives me my medication. I think that's about it. And there's another nurse that does it occasionally, but not all the time. And that's pretty much it. And you would think that they would check more often, since I do take blood pressure medicine. So you got to kind of keep an eye on my blood pressure, right? All right, now the definition of abuse. Abuse is more serious and includes intentional acts. CMS and Alabama law define it as the willful infliction of injury, unreasonable confinement, intimidation, or punishment with the resulting physical harm, pain, or mental anguish. This can include verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental emotional abuse, inappropriate restraint or punishment. And there's an important note here. Even one incident of verbal abuse, ergo a CNA cussing out a resident, can qualify as abuse if it causes mental anguish. Done and done. That guy that cussed at me made me scared to have him around me. Because if his anger is that bad, well, because when he was over next to me, I seriously, before he even cussed me and slammed the door, I seriously started to wonder if he was going to take a poke at me. That's mental anguish. Responsibilities of the facility. Once abuse or neglect is required, reported verbally or in writing. Verbally is a big deal because I've reported many things verbally. To any staff member, not just the people that are required to report and all that, but any staff member. The facility is required to, and here's numbers. Number one, investigate immediately, typically within 24 hours. I think I said it takes 24 hours. It actually takes 24 hours to do the investigation, or can take up to. Number two, report to the Alabama Department of Public Health and possibly Adult Protective Services. Never happened. Take immediate steps to protect the resident. Never happened. As a matter of fact, that kid I'm afraid of tonight was working out here. So he was never going to answer my call. Never, and he's here. And the old DON said he's never supposed to be scheduled for here. And here he is. Failure to do so can result in fines, loss of license, civil liability, and criminal charges. Then as real-world examples, CNA ignores the resident's call light for over an hour, and the resident soils themselves. Yes, it's neglect. No, it's not abuse. Another one, a CNA yells, "You're disgusting, I'm not touching you." When asked to clean a resident, it's a neglect and abuse. Staff fails to report that a resident has been complaining of unrelated pain for days. Untreated. It's hard to read this. Why don't I set this to width? I think I'm almost done. I'm just now thinking, or just now realizing that this is not set to width. It's actually kind of small. There we go. All right, still it fails to report. Yes, that's neglect, possibly abuse if it's willful. Administrator refuses to investigate. Repeated reports of verbal abuse. It is neglect. It's institutional neglect, and it could be abuse if it's a willful disregard. I'm reading what I asked if this is important to talk about or not. And this talks about, yes, if they swear, if there's retaliation, etc., yes, they are felonies. Verbal abuse. CNA cussing out a resident is verbal abuse. This falls under Alabama Code subsection 38-9-7, protection of aged adults and adults with disabilities, which is me, disability-wise. I've got some age, but I'm not quite there yet, but I do have a disability. If the act is willful and causes mental anguish, which it did, emotional distress, which it did, it can result in criminal penalties. Felony charges. If the abuse is willful and malicious, it can be classified as a Class C felony in Alabama. This includes threats, intimidation, or cruel language directed at vulnerable adults. Intimidation will be like when he was standing next to me and I was starting to wonder if he was going to take a poke at me. Of course, I think that was all about verbal. Well, it says retaliation. It doesn't really say verbal or not. Oh, wait a minute. Is this the right thing? Or did I page down too far? That felony charge is verbal. So that was verbal. Then as retaliation against a resident as a felony under federal law, 42 CFR, subsection 43.12C1, and mirrored by Alabama regulations. So Alabama is just doing what the federal law says. Retaliation against a resident for making a complaint, filing a grievance, or asserting their rights is strictly forbidden, which has happened. That nurse I have trouble with said that I was, what am I fussing about now and shit? Said I was catfishing, whatever. In Alabama, retaliating against a resident, especially for reporting abuse, filing complaints, or exercising their rights, is considered interference with a protected activity. This is treated as a criminal intimidation, harassment, or obstruction of a complaint process. Under Alabama elder protection laws, this can also result in felony charges, particularly if it leads to harm, emotional, physical, or psychological. It was done intentionally to punish the resident. And I think that, I'm only halfway done. Sorry about that. I'm only halfway. I thought I was about done. We're at an hour. We've got half of the video, more than half of it done so far. We're halfway through this document, but I'm going to skip a lot of this because it's going to become repetitive in a minute. Okay. This goes back to the care plan again. It's about me being put in that chair. If I'm not put in that chair every day, wait a minute. This is actually, I think, the ones that ChatGPT misunderstood. It thought that I was saying that my care plan was only ignored a handful of times, instead of it was only followed a handful of times. This is scenario breakdown care plan requirement. If a resident's care plan clearly states they must be put in their wheelchair by 9 a.m. every day, that is a medical and legal directive, not a suggestion. Pattern of non-compliance. If it only happens, let's see, they said 5 times. I need to skip down to the other one. I thought I had already done that. Here we go. It's already impacted. Once I cleared it up and said it's only happened a handful of times. Yeah, it says this is a pattern of neglect, according to both Alabama Administrative Code 420-5-10-.032E regarding nursing home care and standards, federal regulations under 42 CFR subsection 43.12, freedom from abuse, neglect, and exploitation. Neglect includes repeated failure to carry out elements of a resident's care plan when that failure causes physical, emotional, or psychological harm or creates a risk of such harm. That just creates the risk. Daily wheelchair placement past the care plan time can limit mobility, which it did, cause muscle stiffness, which it did, pressure injuries, yeah, because my wheelchair is the only thing that does pressure relief. The bed doesn't, obviously. Or social isolation, yeah. They also don't have a dinner table I can get my wheelchair behind or under in the cafeteria, which means I can't eat in the cafeteria. I have to eat in my room all the time by myself. Delaying wheelchair placement past the care plan time is, well, past the care plan time, the limited mobility, etc., can prevent the resident from participating in meals, therapy, or social activities. Yeah. Can it impact mental health, especially if the resident feels ignored or disrespected? Oh, hell yes. Ignored and disrespected? Yeah. And it'll affecting my mental health? Yeah. Because one of the symptoms, one of the things that everyone with MS pretty much has is depression. And the reason is, well, aside from the fact you have MS burns out parts of your brain that cause you to have depression. Even if you don't know that you have MS, you're going to have depression because it burned out part of your brain that helps you not have depression. See what I'm saying? So that's like a double whammy. I have the burnout centers causing me to have depression. And I also know that I have MS, which also causes depression, right? So the last thing I need is somebody ignoring me or disrespecting me, causing my mental health to decline even further, right? The legal view of not being put in my chair at 9 is it's legally binding. It's a strong sign of systemic neglect, increases liability, risk of harm, ensure timely execution of care plan. That's what the legal standpoint is. Then we have next steps for resident or family. It says I should document everything, which I guess I'm kind of doing with my vlog and stuff. Report to the director of nursing and administrator in writing. I've done it verbally to the DON. If nothing changes, file a complaint. Well, actually, I've done it to the DON because I texted her, and the text message is recorded on my phone. So yeah, that's a form of writing. If nothing changes, file a complaint with Alabama Department of Public Health, State Ombudsman Program. Legal counsel may be consulted for a potential civil neglect claim. Now, this is what ChatGPT is recommending based on what I told it. And that's really based on the 9 o'clock in the chair thing, I think. I think that's the first time I've seen that. Yeah, this is about being made to feel, I think, let me read that. I only read part of it, make sure I'm right. Yeah, it makes you being made to feel stupid or silly because you're complaining. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Am I sure I'm on the right thing? Yeah. All right. It says, I thought this was on something else, but I guess it is this. ChatGPT says this change it legally. It changes everything because they're making me feel silly about complaining. And it's very serious. What I just described moves the situation into retaliation, intimidation, and possibly violation of federal and state protections for residents in long-term care. That's what that nurse did for sure. By asking, what am I fussing about now? Legal implications. Retaliation is illegal under federal law, 42 CFR 4 subsection 483.10, and Alabama state law. Residents in long-term care facilities have the right to voice grievances without fear of retaliation, interference, coercion, or intimidation. If upper management mocks, dismisses, belittles, refuses to act on a complaint, makes the resident feel intimidated or silly, they may be violating federal residents' rights laws and civil rights protections. 42 CFR subsection 483.10J, the resident has a right to voice grievances without discrimination or reprisal. The facility must make prompt efforts to resolve grievances. They don't do that. There is no prompt efforts to resolve anything. I've been complaining about pretty much the same stuff for 9 months. So unless prompt has somehow become after 9 months, time has gone by, I'd say they violated that. Failure to report to the state, mandatory reporter neglect. Administrators and other upper-level staff in Alabama are considered mandatory reporters if they fail to report abuse, neglect, or retaliation to the Alabama Department of Public Health or Adult Protective Services. They may be personally liable for violating reporting laws. And these are color-coded. That was yellow. The next one is red, which I'm assuming means it's a lot worse. It says intimidation equals abuse. No two ways about it. That's what it is. Yes, under CMS and Alabama definitions, psychological abuse includes intimidation, humiliation, or threats that lead a resident to feel unsafe or afraid to speak up. That would be me. I do anyway, but I do it with fear. Because sometimes I'm afraid they're going to do something if I complain too much. You see what I'm saying? That means making a resident feel too stupid to complain. I think I just said that. Or complaining is pointless. I feel like sometimes it's like beating your head against the wall because they never do anything. Is pointless may be a form of abuse. I thought that was it for a second. Hold on, wait a minute. I think I was reading something wrong here. Hold on. Yeah, okay, it's just we're kind of repeating the same thing. It's all about that nurse. She shouldn't have said what she said. About what am I fussing, and that's it. What am I fussing about now? And that was the end of it. That yes, that is a crime, abuse, neglect, etc. So ChatGPT, based on some of the things I've said, just that I've noticed, is recommending that I basically report them and seek an attorney. So let that be a lesson to you. You need to listen to all this stuff if you have a loved one in a nursing home or who's going to be in a nursing home. This is an hour and 14 minutes. I've cut this. It was 2 hours and 40 minutes was the other one. God, I hope I didn't miss anything. I really hope so, but it's all gone now. I have no idea what I guess I could go over. I will go over the. Oh man. I'll go over the other document, which I didn't cover in this video, and make sure I didn't miss anything. That's what I was like spitballing about. I was paraphrasing. That was basically what was in the other document. But I'll go over it, make sure I didn't miss anything. And if I did, I'll make another video about it. But that's it. This is all about people wanting to know what to do about nursing homes and their loved ones. I guess that's what this is about. If anything like what I talked about happens to you, as ChatGPT did, recommended that I contact an attorney and report this place for systematic abuse, so should you. So pay attention and do it. And like, comment, subscribe below. Comment if you have something to say, whether it be a story of your own or I missed something or something like that, or something I didn't cover, like the kitchen staff. That's another situation altogether because they're a third party. I probably have to do another video on that alone. I've taken enough pictures of the bad meals. The next thing is to find out legally, like I did here, what's going on with the kitchen staff. And, yeah. So anyway, if you like, comment, subscribe, comment below if you have something or if I missed something or whatever. Or if you have another question for a video. I mean, or if you have similar situations, I might have to come on for an interview. Could be any of the above. Use the community forum if you want to. I've got a poll in there right now. I think it's about the CNAs. I have to look it up, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm a little lazy to do that right now. So if you can afford it, send me some crypto. It's at cryptic.blockchain. It's in the description. And until next time, I'll see y'all then.